As women achieve power, the barriers will fall. As society sees what women can do, as women see what women can do, there will be more women out there doing the things and we'll all be better off for it. Sandra Day O'Connor. Welcome to Casa de Confidence, a podcast for you. You'll hear some incredible women
and some awesome, cool dudes
going confidently in the direction of their dreams and living in the purpose of their heart.
You're our host,
Julie DeLucca-Collins, and you are our sidekick. Hashtag handsome hot husband.
That again.
And the producer of the show.
That I am.
I am an author, speaker, coach, dreamer, and most of all,
we help people go in the direction of their dreams
and support them on their purpose. So pull up a chair,
grab a drink,
and make yourself at home because our casa
is your casa. Welcome back to Casa de Confidence. This is Dan.
And this is Julie.
Amazing quote today, Julie. I loved it.
Me too. I am celebrating that the best thing happened over the weekend. What?
Well, you got to spend some quality time with me playing. What's the game we're playing now?
Rummy Cube, but that's not what the
Rummy
best
Cube.
thing that happened during the week. I mean, that was very nice.
Spending quality time with your husband wasn't the most special thing in the world? Well,
there was something else that happened that I want to talk about.
All right.
So you ready for it?
All right. What happened over the weekend, babe?
Well, take a guess.
I'm not going to guess.
Oh, my God.
I'm not going to play your guessing games today.
Okay. You're not playing my guessing games today?
No, not today.
All right. Well, one of the things that is very important that happened over the weekend, and my heart soars for it, is that Mexico elected their first woman president.
Amazing.
And she's not only the first woman president, she is the first Jewish person elected to the position. Oh. So let's break some glass ceilings, people. Let's do it.
Break some glass ceilings there. Oh, I know what the other thing that happened this weekend.
What?
President Bukele he took his oath for his second term in El Salvador.
That's right.
Did I say his name right?
It's Bukele, but I think it's fine.
I said it gringo style.
Yes, the president of El Salvador was reelected.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading a little bit of his inaugural speech.
Right.
I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'm not going to share them today.
Oh, okay. So, well, the reason I bring that up is because, well...
Yes, why are you bringing it up, Daniel
Collins?
Well,
first of all, your Salvadorian heritage, and we're going to be there soon. That's kind of cool.
We are going to be there. Absolutely. Yeah. Super excited. My mom is down there. She's been vacationing extendedly in El Salvador since January.
Oh my God. And you know what's going to happen, people?
What's going to happen?
The pup squad, all 3 dogs, are going to have an adventure at someone else's house.
Oh my God. We're going to have to tag Missy on this video. Missy Collins and
Missy
her
Collins'
son
is going to be watching
your
the
nephew,
dogs.
Our nephew, Michael Collins, will be watching the Fluff Squad.
We'll see how that goes. They've never spent time away.
Oh, I know. They've never, except being at the vet overnight, but they've never really had a sleepover. Yogi has never slept away from his home because Yogi's a homebody. Yogi, you ready to go somewhere? Oh my God. Where is he?
Don't say that. You're going to get him all crazy.
Oh, sorry.
I know.
Anyhow.
Anyway, Julie.
Yes, Daniel.
Christiane Schroeter is our guest today.
I love her.
This is the second time you've had her on the show, is it not?
Well, she was on the Confident You radio.
Oh, and she was didn't she speak in your summit?
She did speak in the Purposeful You Summit,
yes.
Which if you're watching on YouTube, go check it out.
Yes,
it's one of the videos here, and I'll try to tag it.
For the people out there, what's your YouTube channel?
Casa de Confidence.
Is it on the Casa de Confidence channel? Because I know you got a personal channel, but you don't have any videos on it.
I have videos on my personal channel, but I don't make that known that I have a personal channel out there. Now you outed me.
Well, you got a person. You know what? You existed before your baby baby Casa de Confidence was born.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I don't think I have any questionable videos in there. I got to go see
Really?
what we have.
You questionable? You don't have any questionable. It's YouTube, first of all.
Listen,
you can't have
I have
questionable.
Twitter that is questionable.
Well, Twitter. Well, questionable like in your opinions.
Very strong opinions.
So, yeah.
But hey, by the way, Hello Happy Nest is Christiane's website, and she also has a podcast, which I am a fan of. I love talking to her, because she is, and I, wait a minute, back up. Dr. Schroeter, Healthy, Happy, Hustle, Navigating Life with a Smile is her podcast. And there's a weekly episode that she has out, and I love every single guest that she has. I have been a guest on her show. She actually did a solo episode where she talked about 3 strategies for female entrepreneurs. And when I was there, we really talked about listen first, speak second, which it was an interesting conversation. Yeah. And I guess when she released it.
What's that?
Guess when she released it.
I don't know. I told you I'm not playing your guessing games.
What, you had enough of me all weekend? You had enough of playing
games with me?
When
you have something important to tell me, you say, guess this, and I got to make 3 guesses before you tell me.
Okay, I'm going to give away a secret.
Yes.
I'm going to give away a secret today. That it was a woman's secret.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so wait a minute.
That's your deodorant, isn't it?
Yes, but no, I'm going to give away a secret.
Oh.
I really wanted ice cream a couple days ago.
Oh, me too.
And I really didn't want to go get it. So I asked Dan if he wanted to go to the creamery and drive together to go get it. And he said, no, I'll go get it at the farm store or whatever.
That's all you wanted? You tricked me?
I did not trick you. You just kind of made a choice. I gave you 2 choices. You could go to the Collins Creamery with me.
You didn't. You actually said you want to go to the Collins Creamery?
Yeah.
Which is not related to us. And I said, no, but I'll go get ice cream, make sundaes.
I got what I wanted.
That was good because you know what?
What?
I got what I wanted too.
You got me, huh?
You
got me, babe.
I got ice cream sundae.
Yeah, you did.
Because it was kind of funny because I was thinking the same thing. It was just weird how.
I just inspired. We're in the same wavelength.
Yeah.
We're we're married.
So you're saying give somebody a hard choice and an easy choice, but they both benefit you. They take the easy choice. You're happy anyway?
That's correct.
I feel manipulated.
It's not manipulation. It's choices. Okay, so do you want to go cave diving?
Here we go. Oh, I feel like I'm being manipulated again.
Not. Or do you want to go on a boat ride?
If I was going to, what do you mean cave diving?
Like we're going to jump from a cliff onto the bottom of a thing and cape I'm losing my voice. Cave dive in the
into water.
Yeah, into water.
So we're going to dive from a high place into a watery place.
Yeah.
Or I can get on a boat and go on a tour.
Yeah.
So I'll go on the boat ride.
Okay, good.
So what would you rather do? You'd rather jump off the little cliff.
I'd rather do both.
Yeah, both. Maybe, you know what? No, I'm not jumping off of that because I don't know what's under the. I don't know.
Well, yeah, first of all,
I don't know what rocks lurk beneath. I don't want to.
Thousands of people do this.
Thousands of people do this. What's the percent of people who get injured?
And there's no people that have been
No,
injured.
you have not done your research.
No, because there's no need to do research.
I guarantee at least a person has gotten hurt.
Okay, so wait a minute. I'm going to show you the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have been.
I'm such a poo-poo head.
You're a poo-poo head. Poo-poo head.
So I'm gonna. Here.
Yeah, you are. I'm going to share. I think this is going to let me do it. I want to share a little bit of where I think we are staying, boys and girls. Let's see.
What are you sharing?
I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, for people who are listening to the podcast right now, Julie's sharing.
I'm sharing my screen.
She's sharing to Instagram.
And you're going to go to the account.
Where we're going.
It's called Burbujas del Mar. And that's the account. And basically, look, this is where I think we're going to stay. Ooh, look at that.
So it's a beautiful resort with, it's got such a nice pool. And a lot of people don't realize, and this is the thing, a lot of people don't realize that El Salvador Salvador is coming up.
Yeah, there's actually a
and
big...
it's funny, you go to the resorts and you look at the videos on YouTube of the resorts.
So beautiful.
And this one's beautiful. Mm-hmm. There's nobody there.
Because they just built it.
They just built it, but people, there's certain spots, nobody know about it. You get the whole place to yourself. One thing to be said about being around a lot of people, and that's cool. In El Salvador, you will be when you walk around town, when you walk around the different places. The locals there are friggin' amazing.
Yes, they are.
It's nice having a wife that can translate for me.
Yeah. So I want to tell you something big that happened that I wanted to make sure that I mention on the podcast. And you're going to hear me talk about it more than once, but bear with me. We made a big announcement today, my friend Hillary Gatsby and I. If you remember, Hillary Gatsby, friend of the show, we interviewed her because she produced the event in which I spoke to with Pearl Chiarenza back in Tampa at the beginning of March. And that was the Building a Boss Summit. And Hillary and I have decided to produce a Building a Boss Summit here in Hartford, Connecticut. So officially, tickets have gone on sale. And if you want to join me in Hartford and have a boss building session for a whole day of incredible speakers, you can go to Building a Boss Summit and grab your tickets. If you want a discount on the tickets, you can hit me up and I will give you my little discount code. But grab your tickets. We have incredible speakers. We're going to kick off the event with Danielle McGrath. We also have an efficiency and essential tools for business mastery, networking breaks. We have pop-up marketplace, a sip and shop, book signing as well, and had a marketing alchemy panel, and also a closing speaker, the founder of Bella Media and Co. So really excited about this, and we're going to be giving back to the ETT Women Foundation, an organization dedicated to offering financial education and planning and assisting victims of domestic violence, emotional, sexual, and financial abuse. So it's going to be an amazing event. And guess what?
Yes.
I have a friend of the show. You won't believe. Okay, we have lots of friends of the show, but Gabby Barrero from No Plan B, Tatiana Cole from Flourish in Massachusetts, Jocelyn DeMeo, one of my first interviews for the podcast, are going to be part of the event. So, and I can't divulge anymore, but go to the Instagram, Building a Boss Summit. You can follow me, go check out my Instagram, and you'll find information on it.
This is a big deal.
Yeah, you'll be working hard, Dan. Just letting you know.
But building a boss summit
right.
is a big deal, and we're hoping to work with the people of Hartford.
Yeah. Well, Hartford is a dynamic place, and we have a lot of different things happening in the area, and it is only fitting that we have this event and that we give the opportunity for women to come together, lift each other up, and learn about how to grow this, because it's not about competition. It really is about growth. And by the way, this is one of the things that I love about Dr. Christiane, that she is a giver. And I'm so happy that we connected online and that we really have been able to collaborate. She has over 20 years experience as a business and wellness coach, and she was once frustrated, and now she is helping others in the same way that she overcame the frustration to build her business. And she has streamlined a lot of the things that need to take place, just like we help individuals build and launch and grow a podcast. We take the frustration out.
That's right. That's our mission.
That's our mission.
We're like the frustration-free packaging of the podcasting world.
Yes. And if you are interested or you want to check out what we're doing with our podcasting services, you need to go to casadeconfidencepod.com, and you can see a little bit of what we do and how we help people. So Daniel.
Yes.
Without further ado.
You said doo-doo.
Oh, geez. Now you need to edit that.
I'm not editing that
What?
out. That's funny.
Oh my God.
That's like a That's like a slice of fried gold, baby.
Wow. Unbelievable.
I like that. I like that quote from Shaun of the Dead, by the way.
I didn't even know that was a quote from a movie.
It's from Shaun of the Dead.
That's one of your favorite movies, Shaun of the Dead.
I know. I think it's time to watch it. We haven't watched it in a very long time.
It's
hilarious.
We watched choices that you chose before.
Really?
Next movie we watch is going to have like romance, flowers.
It's going to have
girl
girls
power.
meeting boys. They're not going to like each other. They're going to almost miss their opportunity to be together.
You're
and then
reducing
at the
women
last second,
to that.
They're going to Hallmark it up.
No.
And I'm not reducing women. I'm reducing Hallmark movies.
We're not watching a Hallmark movie.
Well, pretty much.
There is a great movie out. It has Anne Hathaway.
Oh, we can watch that one.
And she meets a younger man.
I'll enjoy that movie, actually.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I thought you watched it on your own.
No, I watched the Brooke Shields movie on my own.
Oh, okay.
So
anyway, you know what? It's time for the interview.
It is time for the interview for sure.
So, Julie,
Daniel,
listeners,
yes,
here is Julie and Christiane Schroeter.
We have a repeat guest today, everybody. And you know, I love to invite friends of the show, individuals who have really touched my heart. And in this case, it's no different. Today, we have Christiane Schroeter with us, and her adventure began in a rather ordinary setting in Germany. She was navigating through life and her career, but felt the call to something greater deep down. This inner voice led her on a quest for purpose and meaning. The road wasn't easy, and she faced numerous challenges, especially when she decided to build a life in a new country, balancing her role as a full-time college professor and raising children in unfamiliar surroundings. It tested her resilience in teaching her invaluable lessons about strength and perseverance. We're so happy to have you, Christiane. Welcome back to Confident You and the Casa de Confidence podcast.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Julie. I'm so excited to share my story here today. And of course, it's always great to connect with the audience.
Well, you have been an incredible contributor to what we do. You, like me, feel very strongly in living in that purpose. That's why you were a part of our summit. I want to ask you something, though. And I have been doing something different because I am obsessed with the podcast Diary of a CEO. And I am a firm believer that we are the CEOs of our life and business. And now, if you haven't seen the show, anybody, is Stephen Bartlett. Check him out. You're going to be blown away. He's just 29, 30 maybe, but he is an incredible billionaire that went from almost homelessness to being a billionaire. And in his show, he asked CEOs or everyone who he's interviewing to write a question and to leave it for the next guest. And rather than copying him, I'm just using the questions that he uses that other CEOs have left behind. So I'm going to randomly pick a question, and here's my deck of cards, right? And he has all these questions here. So Christiane, I'm going to just pick randomly. I'm not going to look because that will make it fair. Okay. So, and I'll tell you who the question is from and who answered it. So this is a question that Whitney Wolf Hurd left, and it was answered by Gabby Logan. So here is your question. What would you do if you absolutely were not afraid?
Love it. And I love that this was asked by a female, answered by a female. So there's a lot of empowerment coming there. What would I do if I would not be afraid?
Huh?
So that makes me first think I need to think a little bit of what I'm scared of. And I have to say, really, like deep down, my fear is I personally really don't like driving in the darkness. That's one thing that I'm not a huge fan of. I feel that I'm a really good driver. In Germany, we actually went to driving school for about a year. I don't like driving in the darkness. It's something about visibility and feeling that I'm just not feeling the same safe and confident person. If I were to not be afraid of that, I would probably drive more in the evening. But currently, I'm like the total passenger when it comes to taking road trips. And my husband is the one on the steering wheel, and I'm the navigator. And during the day, I love driving myself. I'm very passionate about it. But if I wouldn't be afraid, I would probably do more night driving myself.
Well, I love this answer because I can totally identify. I love driving. And lately, and I think I've shared this a little bit on the show here, and certainly it's something that I'm working through with my coach. And I've started since the pandemic feeling more uneasy, not necessarily driving, but when my husband drives. Well, it happens with most people. But really, when my husband drives, and he's an excellent driver, I will tell you that. But I get very anxious and I feel immediately going into this panic, and I don't know what it is. I've had actually, I know part of it. I used to have, and still every once in a while, I have a dream that I get into a car accident and I die. Isn't that weird? So so I'm incredibly nervous and it drives my husband crazy, but I love your answer because number one, before you gave me an answer, you really had to identify something that you're afraid of. And I think that for us, in order to overcome anything, we don't take the time to stop and figure out what we need to change, what is not working for us. And before we take the first step, don't you agree?
Yeah, in a certain way, it's just like when you do interviews that they ask you, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And sometimes people answer the weakness question with a strength. And then you listen to it and you're like, well, it's not exactly a weakness. I know you don't want to look bad in an interview, but at the same time, it makes us so much more authentic and relatable if we actually share a weakness, because we are, of course, human and absolutely not perfect. Kind of like sharing what you're not good at doesn't mean you always have to be not good at this. You can work on it. And at the same time, it's something to where, especially if you're hiring or you're interviewing or you're identifying your own strength, you can be honest about it and say, all right, so maybe somebody else can fill this in. I have my husband pick up my kids if they have evening appointments.
Yeah.
And then you're finding somebody that can complement your skills. You can build a synergy out of it instead of saying, oh, no, I'm pretty much good at everything.
Absolutely. That's awareness and part of mindfulness, which is your topic. Tell me a little bit about when you began to create this awareness and when you started to bring in and practice mindfulness in your life, and what has that done for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that we started talking about driving and our weaknesses, and I'm kind of going back to the weaknesses. I really started practicing more mindfulness when I was exceptionally stressed and when I realized that my whole body is just in a constant stress response. And it sometimes takes that reset button that you need to push when you're not feeling well to like, hold on, really not taking a lot of time for myself. And I could be. It does not have to be an hour. It could just be 5 or 10 minutes during the day. And here I am trying to be a role model to my daughters, to the students I see every day in the classroom, to people that are around me that look at me as a professor and a leader. And I'm not even taking care of myself. Yes. So it really took that time to where I struggled with digestive issues. I struggled with a shoulder that was bugging me because I was sitting so long at the desk in a not very good posture. And all of a sudden, I thought it's hard to step away from your work, but I just have to do it because the work that I get done while I'm in pain, it's subpar work. And it's not something that I can continue because I'm pushing myself too hard.
I'm so grateful for that answer that you're sharing, because it's really honest and upfront. And for many of us, we have a hard time identifying that we're not doing it all, especially as women. We think that we have to tick all the boxes, but there are times in which we have to stop and we have to say, no, I need to just not do that until I do this, because we realize that we're not going to be able to show up as well if we're not taking care of ourselves. How long, or is that something that you started to do from an early age, or how did it land that you are able to do that? Because I know that there's someone listening today that says, "But Julie, but Christiane, I don't think so. I can't do that." Tell me more about that.
Well, the first step to this is just getting started. And
Mhm.
you have to be quite honestly thinking of it as a muscle
Mhm.
that needs training. It's just like, you see me zipping my water right here. It's just like drinking more water or going
Yeah.
for walks.
Yeah.
For it to become a habit and to really feel like you're missing out on it, you have to think about it one step forward and two steps back. So for
Mhm.
me to take time for myself, there were many days when I didn't take time of myself, and then it started piling up. And I could have easily said at that point, I'm not going to do it.
Mhm.
But I felt if I don't really pick it back up, it's not going to happen. And I
Mhm.
think it really started after I became a mom. And I will tell you the monumental situation. So I had enrolled my children in a swimming class. They were very small, and I live in California. Swimming is really important. A lot of people have pools. We have water. Of course, we have the ocean right there. And I was sitting at the pool, looking at my phone, looking at my children in that swimming class. And I have no idea what happened, Julie. All of a sudden, I looked up and I saw all these other moms and these other parents sitting there. And I thought, what the heck am I doing? I'm sitting next to a pool, looking at my children in a swim class, and I'm looking at my phone. I need to get going.
Yeah.
I could leave them very well with that swim teacher right now because they're under full supervision, and I could actually do something different. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, I thought, yeah, this is not how it should be. Because if they are in, whether it's gymnastics or swimming or whatever, this is actually a time that I have for myself.
Yeah.
And that's very precious. And so I started during that time just working out for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I came back and I picked them up and I was like, oh man, we all win. We all won.
You all won. Yeah. I love that answer. I think that as women, and I remember my mom as well. And really, this is the example that I got. And I think that this is also the example that she received too. Always on the go, always doing multiple things. And when we don't show up for others, there's so much guilt, but there is a lot of ways in which we can show up better when we stop the inconsistency of not doing the things that really help us first.
Yeah, and quite honestly, to this day, I still identify: do I want to watch the game for my daughter
Yeah.
every single time? Because sometimes they're quite far away, and then you have to drive there, and you sit in the stands. And by the way, who invented these stands? They're so
So
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Yes, I know.
I bought like a little thing on Amazon that has a backrest with it because it was like, well, but this is not doing good things for me. I'm sitting here and I'm like totally in the game, but then I get up and I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? So I have to identify, do I want to do this or is there something else? And to be really honest, as a mom, you can't play at all of these events. You can't make, the cookies for the bake sale,
Yeah.
and you can't go to the PTA meetings and go to all the games. If you have a full-time job, it just doesn't work. And then like sometimes you just have to tell your kids, all right, which game do you want me to be there? Because I can take turns with dad. If you have a partner, that of course works amazing.
Yeah.
And then he can show up to some and I can show up to some, and we can show up to some together that are really important to you. But otherwise, look, it just doesn't work. And I mean, it's going to cut into your sleep. It's going to cut into your sanity, and it's going to cut into your quality of life. So you have to just evaluate in that moment. It's not about the money, Julie. It's about the time. Because you can always make more money, but you can't get the time back. And so you have to
100%.
evaluate, what do you want to do with your time?
Yes. I've been in this time kick since we started the year. And I was just telling someone, I feel like January was a very long month. I don't know if it was just me, but it felt like it was a whole year. But it made me realize that time is continually that currency that we put out there, but it doesn't have necessarily something that we can remake it. Like you said, we can make more money, but when we invest in our time, it really is able to give us a result in our life that we want, but we have to invest in the right things. Holistically, you help individuals to align themselves, both align body, mind, and soul. For someone who's never heard of holistic approach to living, can you explain a little bit of what that is?
Because I'm a professor, I'm going to kind of like paint a visual with you right now.
Love it.
So think about a Venn diagram, which are basically circles that overlap, right? So we have all these little circles and these little hats we wear in our life. But at the end of the day, it comes to you move your body. So your body, you move it outside, you stretch, etc. Then, of course, there is your nutrition in there too. So everything that you put in your body, the food, the water that you drink, and all this. And then, of course, the nourishment of the mind as well. So whether you're reading books, you're listening to podcasts, you're watching this video podcast right now on YouTube, all of this will lead to growing. And that means you need to take care of your body just like you take care of your car. Some people take better care of the car than they take care of themselves, Julie, but that's a side.
Absolutely.
Right? So holistically speaking, these three areas, the body, the mind, the soul, are overlapping, and you kind of want to aim for a little intersection. Now, I personally don't believe in the word balance, because in my life, I can't remember the last time I had balance, really. You asked me earlier when I started my mindfulness, and I can't really pinpoint the day. I think it probably somewhat intersects between having children, working full time, and doing lots of other things. Sometimes I think of this intersection as like shifting a little bit more towards maybe in January, I focused more on healthy eating. And maybe in February, I'm going to focus more on the mindfulness. And maybe in March, I'm going to focus a little bit more on my soul. I'm going to rest a little bit more. And as we're moving through, that will also be Easter, there will be Mother's Day coming. So think a little bit of the holistic as like, you're looking at the full picture. You don't just look at one element, and you're getting more of a complete analysis of what's really going on behind the scene. It's nearly like those little scratch pictures where you take a coin and you scratch. You're like, oh, that's really behind it. That's kind of like holistic thinking. And it's so important to give a good feeling for your true self. And it's authentic. And at the same time, you also give yourself grace. As I say, they don't need to fully align. The Venn diagram doesn't have these perfect overlines. Just maybe overlining a little bit is already amazing in itself.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that we really can't have that elusive balance, but that we tend to choose different things and focus on them at different times. And that's really how we need to learn to live life, because when we're trying to do it all, certainly we're not going to do it well, and we're going to tax ourselves, and we're not going to thrive. So I appreciate you mentioning that. You help individuals also in that body wellness, eating healthy. And this is something that from time to time I've struggled with, because I get into the busy mode. I get into that, it's so lazy, right? It's so much easier to buy the whatever it is, right? Order out or not pay attention. What are some of the tips that we can really put into practice that would be easy for myself and the listeners to kind of implement?
So my biggest three tips is, and I'm kind of anchoring it about the body, mind, and soul is, so the one thing is, if you want to move your body every day, do not think that you need to adopt some kind of fad exercise, like, oh, everybody's doing CrossFit right now, or people seem to do yoga. I talk to lots of people and they're like, I've tried yoga, it's just not for me. And you know what? That's cool. If you don't like yoga, you don't have to do it. So think of yoga, think of exercise as something to where we've all been at the big shopping malls, right? And you approach the food court area, and there's all these little Chinese, there is American burgers, there is sushi from Japan, there is all this. And think of it as like every day you want to nearly have like a variety of movements that you could do. And it could be that you write those down, or it could be that you tried them in the past, or it could be that you're like drawing a card, just like you did with your question earlier. And you're
Yes.
like, all right, today it looks like I'm going on a 10-minute walk. And while I do that, I talk to a friend. So I get my body, my movement, but I also get my mind. And maybe my friend tells me something amazing. So that's also nourishing my soul. So you could even combine the activities together. Maybe even take a water bottle along. Yeah, you, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to think of it as being like, well, to really lead a healthy life, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Because there's one word I really always tell my children we try to eliminate in our life. It's but. I don't like that. And the other one is should.
Yes.
Right? Don't think of it as like, oh, to be healthy, we should do this. We should do that.
Indeed.
Not necessary, because it leads to a lot of restrictions and our life is too short to restrict it. So just kind of figure out what brings you joy and then write it down and draw the card. And I'm like, oh, that's fun.
I like this idea of picking the cards. I like that because I tend to be that person that likes the variety. And by the way, if you're listening to us, I want you to know that this piece of advice is coming from someone who has a degree in food and nutrition and has a PhD in health economics. So she knows what she's talking about. I love that you're telling the listeners as well that should, that can, that would have. There's so many words that we use that at times kind of set us up for failure. What are other ways in which we can, if we fail, right? What are some of the ways that maybe we can overcome and get back up and get out there and start again?
And you will love this one right here. So in December, we wrote down, we had a little mason jar and we wrote down little Post-it notes, ideas that every person wanted to do in our family. And it was a food. So they, some kind of takeout or anything like that, or a restaurant where we could go. It could be a movie or it could be an activity. So it was that body, mind, and soul. And then we folded them up and put them in the mason jar. And every day we drew out of the mason jar and read it. And I can't believe, Julie, the amazing things that my children and my husband wrote down. For instance, my husband, like sometimes I drew it and I'm like, who wrote down that? And then I was like, oh, so in fact, for instance, my husband wrote down, take a pottery class. And I was like,
oh, that sounds fun.
He wrote this down. And so we made a point during December in working through all of these little sticky notes and really looking at them as like, all right, we drew it. This would not look really like, why did we go through all the trouble and put them in the mason jar if we're actually not going to do this?
Right.
And sometimes it didn't work. Like, for instance, it was quite rainy and then we had drawn the play golf and it was like, well, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
We drew again. And then the next one was go bowling. I was like, well, looking like we're going bowling today and we're not doing golf or whatever. But in fairness, because you drew it, there was a certain amount of accountability. I think that what gets us going is accountability. In my practice, I do an accountability group, and I think it changes the world. You could be the most disciplined person ever. German roots, as I have, will still, there will be still those days you are like, I really don't feel like doing this at all, right? And then you just don't get it done. And then on the next day, it's like, well, didn't get done yesterday. I don't feel like doing it today. So you have to have an accountability buddy and set a day, whether that's a weekly, monthly, or whatever, set goals and then check in. Is that something that actually got accomplished? And if it didn't, that's all right. It needs to be a person that will hold you accountable, but that will not chastise you.
Yes.
So it needs to be a well-loving friend.
Yes. We all can surround ourselves with these well-loving friends. I went to lunch with a girlfriend on Wednesday, and one of the things that I definitely needed accountability for is I've always drank, not always, I suppose, because I haven't been doing it. I drink my coffee black for the most part. Somewhere along the way in December, I started to put cream in my coffee, and I don't really drink cream because of the sugar and I don't like the dairy. And I said to her, I need to kind of leave that behind. And that was the first thing that she said, right? In a very kind, loving way. Are you still doing cream in your coffee? And when I said, well, I guess so, she said, well, what can you do to maybe not stop altogether, but maybe condition yourself in a smaller way of giving it up or changing and going back? And I thought, well, this is excellent. I really think she should be a coach as well. She's a teacher, but really, it was great accountability for me because I had someone who I communicated my goals to, and she loves me enough to keep me accountable to what I want to do. So I love that idea that you shared as well.
Well, and you're bringing up a great point, which is especially with a new year and New Year's resolutions, it's the small things that will lead to the big results.
Yeah.
So I teach Pilates classes, for instance, and people, and it's like I'm new to my class, they get all these big weights, and I tell them, no, just get the small weights or body weight. To really get toned in your body, you don't always need to think of like, oh gosh, I need to work out an hour. I need to grab big weights. I need to change my whole outfit. It could just be something small, like going for a walk. It could just be something, a small weight. It could even be you're lifting whatever cans. It doesn't need to be this complicated thing. It could just be cutting out creamer.
Yeah.
So yesterday I was recording a video where I'm showing that under my desk, I have a treadmill that I tend to use when I'm in Zoom meetings.
Yeah, that's right.
And it could even be that you have
you
something
on the treadmill.
Yeah, it could just be something that like that, to where, all right, you're getting a few hundred steps in while you're in a Zoom meeting. Yeah, because if you wouldn't have had this treadmill, maybe you wouldn't have gotten the 100 steps in there or a few hundred steps. So we need to be very aware that identifying the one thing that's small will still lead to a positive reinforcement and maybe latching on to another thing and then maybe another thing. So don't write a whole list of to-dos, but also write a list of, yay, what got done? So have your to-do list and then your celebrate wins list parallel to each other. And then you can look at it and you're like, all right, I didn't eliminate creamer, but I cut back on it. So that's a win. Yeah.
Love it. I love this advice. Number one, because as a tiny habits coach, start small is the way to go. And I really love having that list of wins. I call that the to-do list. I heard that from Gretchen Rubin some years back, and I use it to this day. And I tell my clients, make a to-do list or keep an evidence book where you write all your wins. So on those days that you're feeling like you're having some setbacks or not moving forward, you can go back and look at your evidence book and say, "Whoa, look at the stuff that I've done." The more that we focus on that, the more that our brain changes and allows us to keep moving forward.
Well, and the other thing that's good about it is it's kind of gratitude. Mine, the big, oh my gosh, I have to think about gratitude. Sometimes I say, oh, what are we grateful for today? And I always do this at the very beginning of my classes. So I have this online response system, Julie, in my classes, where basically it's called iClicker. I basically use it. And then students have to write something that they're grateful for. And sometimes like coffee, breakfast, coming to school. And I'm like, well, I would like to get a little bit more like the juicier stuff. And now I sometimes change it and we just call it the to-do list. What are you maybe thankful for that you finished? And all of a sudden we are really changing the communication and they are sharing things that they did on the weekend or that they did the day before, because it's a little bit more connecting it to actions and being proud of the actions. And that's really how you look at goals. You always need to set goals and combine it with an action. I will walk every day instead of just saying, I want to lose 10 pounds, which is a result-oriented goal. Act in action. And then you're really going to see a lot of results.
I love that. Actionable outcomes. It's very important. This is something for my clients, and they get tired of me saying it, but your goals really have to be specific, and you need to write down the actions and start with a verb is what I say. Start with a verb that tells you walking daily. You know what I started doing, and this was an idea a girlfriend of mine also gave me, is I tend to have many meetings throughout the day, and I love having these connections with individuals, whether it be coffee dates on Zoom or maybe teaching or recording or working with clients. However, I started going to the bathroom upstairs. And I realized that rather than going to the bathroom right outside my door, I'm going to go upstairs and get a little more movement in, because otherwise I'm stuck to my desk, and that's not good. I used to, believe it or not, do more walking when I worked outside of the home than I do here at home. So that's a great way to kind of get myself together and moving and not being stuck.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I say, the treadmill, even though it sounds goofy, it's like really an under desk treadmill.
Yeah. Well, I
So
have
it's
one next to my desk, and
um,
currently, I will tell you, and the listeners, and this is for accountability, right? I cleaned up my bookshelf because there were so many books that I needed to kind of get rid of. And rather than putting them on the floor, I put them all on the treadmill. So now I need to get rid of all that stuff and move it so I can go back to walking on the treadmill, at least for some of these meetings, rather than having something that I'm just looking at all day.
well, what you could do is you could have some feel good moment. Maybe we have something in the area here. It's called the little library.
Oh,
It's
yeah, we do
essentially
have
these-
that. Yeah.
So just grab the books, put them in the laundry basket, drive them to the little library, and they're gone. Because otherwise you're like, well, what can I do? What can I do? But just get rid of them. And then your treadmill is free.
My treadmill is going to be free. That is my commitment to you before we even let this podcast out into the world. Before the end of the week, I'm going to be doing that with those books, because I miss the movement at times. I miss the ability to be able to feel that there's that feeling, and as a Pilates instructor, you get this, that satisfaction that your body has been used, and you just feel really great in your body. So that's my commitment.
Yeah, and actually you're bringing up a great point, because you always need to think about, how do I feel afterwards when you struggle to get started?
Yeah.
And maybe when you are done with a physical movement, write down how you feel in that moment, elated, energized, full of ideas.
Yeah.
And then the next time you struggle, look at that little sticky note and like, oh, it's true. I remember. I
That's
did feel
right.
good afterwards, because it's sometimes really hard to do the first step. But when you read how you felt, the emotional response will maybe get you going. So you're your own accountability coach, because you
Yes,
remind
so good.
yourself about how amazing it was.
Oh, good. So good. These are great tips, everybody. I'm so glad that we have our friend here today. And I want you to make sure that you're jotting them down, because this is something that maybe in those moments in which you're feeling a little blah, you can come back and say, oh, what are things that I can do? I like to keep my notes on the phone at times when I'm on the go, especially when I'm listening to a podcast. And this way I can just jot them down. And if I have a moment that I need some inspiration, I can go back and look at them. How do you keep your information? Because I think that we're in this world that we become very much consumers of information, but not action takers. How do you take the consumable information into action?
So for me, I'm doing kind of a combination. So I like my Google Docs, of course. I started recently. I think it might be 2024. I started texting things to myself.
Oh, that's good.
The thing that I like about it is, because I'm anyway looking at my text messages, it's sometimes kind of nice when you read something that you wrote to yourself. It's like, oh, that was a good moment.
I'm gonna have to try that. I like it.
I did the emailing thing, but then I saw like other emails that I didn't want to see. And the good thing is, when you open the text messages, you can just go immediately to your name and just pull it up from there. And it's like, yeah. And what I do is I might be in a meeting and I just copy and paste it and just open the message browser, and because it's silent, I just text it to myself. And then it's all there in that texting stream. So I like that a lot. And the other thing that I do is, I'm a total Post-it girl. I like Post-its. The reason why I'm doing this, and this is a really important reason, I keep them next to my bed and various other places during the house. And I don't want my phone in my bed to interfere.
Yes. I think that's great advice.
If I would have everything on my phone, then I would be in my bed and I'm like, oh, I still need to write this down. And then I would have to get my phone, and then the whole thing. I see other
Oh,
things on the phone, blah, blah, blah. And
absolutely.
half an hour later, I'm like, oh, I wanted to sleep, didn't I? So
Yeah.
I write it on the Post-it note, and then on the morning,
Mhm.
I get the Post-it note and I carry it to my desk, and then I have it
Gotcha.
on my desk, and then I work it down. So that's just something it dumps it out of my brain. It's kind
Yeah.
of like a release. I write it down, and then I know I can sleep because I opened the
Mhm.
little plop in my brain and I got it out, and I can
Yeah.
feel good then.
You know what I heard that referred to as using a second brain. You're taking what's in your brain, putting it somewhere else so that it gives you that peace and you're able to not focus on it and stay awake and kind of ruminate. I love that as well. I do use my phone as my second brain. Unfortunately, I've been very good. I don't have notifications on my phone, and I have it shut down at 9:30. Typically, I don't like to look at it, and that works well for me for most part. I like to also, if I'm dreaming of something, and this is why I do keep my diary, my journal next to the bed. But I find that especially if I'm in the middle of the night and I'm dreaming about something and I want to really write it fast, I have to do it on the phone. Otherwise, I'll wake up my husband.
Mm-hmm.
Although he could probably sleep through me having the lights on or something like that. Yeah.
Well, and it's actually nice that you bring up the dreams,
Mhm.
because at the beginning of the show, we started talking about
Yeah.
your dream.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes just something that subconsciously we are digesting.
Yeah.
So maybe you watched a movie or you read a book or somebody
Mhm.
told you about this accident,
Yeah.
and now your body is still kind of digesting it.
Mhm.
You have this internal fear that you're somehow still working on. So it's great
Yeah.
that you keep
Yeah.
the dream diary,
Yeah. I've been
because
keeping it, believe it or not, since I was 22.
oh, I love it.
I had
So
I had a professor that made us keep track of our dreams for a class assignment, and ever since then, I've done it for the majority of my life. I've jotted down what I was dreaming about, and I like to, even this morning, I was going through, and there are like certain themes in the dream that I start to think like, why would I think of that? What was going through my brain? I was dreaming last night that I was going to an event and the bus left me because I couldn't decide what jacket to wear. And I finally settled on wearing a Kelly green jacket, which I don't own, by the way. But it was really important to kind of think that. And I was thinking, wow, why would it be a Kelly green jacket? And why? And again, I was chasing the bus that was leaving me. So very, very interesting. So now go figure. I'm talking way too much about dreams. This is more about you, though. Tell me,
Oh, it's
what
super
made you start your
interesting.
podcast?
Excuse me.
What made you start your podcast?
Oh, my podcast, Happy Healthy Hustle,
Mhm.
started on 3/23/23.
Good numbers.
I do like numbers. And that's like one thing sometimes when I send very special emails. This is like
Mhm.
totally funny. I look at the time that I sent the email and I want to send it at a very special time. And I
Nice.
sometimes wait for the clock to go to that
I
time.
love that. I love that.
And then it's like, ooh, 3/22 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started, I looked at the calendar and I was like, I should start a podcast. I think I would really like it. And I looked at the calendar and I thought, I'm just going to start it on that day. And I started it like totally scrappy.
Mhm.
Recorded on my phone.
Great.
Absolutely no equipment. And now when I'm looking back, it's like, wow, I really, at that point, didn't know what I was doing, but hey, it got out and that's
Mhm.
amazing. And at the beginning, I also didn't have a very good plan about, is it going to be an interview? How long are the sessions going to be? It really resonated with my audience because of that, because
Mhm.
it wasn't just another polished podcast that looked
Right.
absolutely amazing. It was very scrappy. It was very
Mhm.
from the roots up. And I
Love it.
also think that I think there was a passion that came through.
Mhm.
It wasn't that I thought, oh yeah, I should do this. Again, that should, right?
Yeah,
I
we
just
do
kind
it. We do
of
it to
thought
ourselves.
that,
Yeah.
speaking about that little
Mhm.
mind, body, soul in that section, I thought this is something that I really feel is going to be fun. And the good thing is, if I don't feel it's fun, I also give me permission, I can stop it.
Mhm.
And one thing that to the next thing that the podcast is doing just so exceptionally well now that it's listed among the top 1.5%
I saw that.
globally.
Congrats.
And I think that
so thrilled for
going
you.
to keep going. It's totally, now it's become a habit to use that word. And I'm very consistently posting every 2 weeks. And I'm feeling that it's something that if I wouldn't do it, it would be a void in my life because it adds
I love
joy.
it. I love that this is something that you got into the habit of. I am going to celebrate you on 3/23/24 because your anniversary of launching is coming up. Congrats in advance. But I do think when we start and are willing to be just scrappy, right, and start where we are, it's such a great place and satisfaction of knowing that we keep growing and learning and thriving. And I think that this is the great approach that everybody should have with what they're doing in their lives and what they're doing for themselves. And what a great example you have. Do you think you're doing the things that you've meant to be doing?
I have more goals, really. I think of 2024 is really when I'm going big and not playing small anymore. That's how I'm looking at it. So ultimately, and you're going to smile at this now, I want to do a TEDx talk.
Do it. Oh my goodness. We're going to cheer you on. Anything that you want to talk about, I'll share. I love it.
I know. So you're my idol there.
Oh, you're so kind. I am really just someone that did it. Just went out and had a goal and showed up.
And that's what I'm very inspired by. So I'm definitely going to learn from you.
Well, my friend, you can do it. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you heard me share this before. I know I talked about it on social media a couple of times. I had this on my list of things that I wanted to do for a long time. And I didn't finally do it until 2022. I applied and I got rejected. And then I didn't show up again. I didn't apply again. And it wasn't until a friend said, hey, this is on your list. Again, that accountability, right? And you better go back and apply. And I applied, right? And that's how we show up. But it's definitely such a wonderful, enriching experience. And I'm so honored that I got to add my little 2 cents into the global conversation when it comes to confidence and habits. So I know that I am going to tune in for anything that you share at any stage because you have so much great content and knowledge. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's maybe also to the listeners. It's great that you shared that story because think of it as just a temporary little, not even necessarily a roadblock. It's maybe just a temporary sign that it's just not meant to be at that very moment. It doesn't mean that you can't revisit it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can use it as a motivation because it might just work out 2 years later or 1 year later when you reapplied that you were accepted. So no, it's really something that's personal. It's who knows what the agenda was for 2022 that it just didn't line up, and they might have absolutely loved you. And then when you reapplied, they were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you reapplied. Let's do this."
Yes, I think a no is not a not now, not a no. So I love that advice as well. How can people connect with you?
Well, I would love for people to tune into my podcast, Happy, Healthy Hustle. Think about it as like we're all hustlers deep down, but we want to be happy and healthy. Happy, Healthy Hustle. And my website is Hello Happy Nest, because we are thinking of our body as being our nest that we are striving to say hello to. Hello Happy Nest. And then, of course, my name is Christiane Schroeter. So if you think of looking me up on social media, I usually go with the Hello Happiness. But I also, on my website, I have a press page where I show my speaking engagements, and you can check things out there.
Amazing. I am so grateful that you came back and that you're here sharing your expertise. I love that you gave us some really great nuggets. I need to go and tune into more of your episodes. Thank you for being here. And now you're part of our family. You can't get rid of us. You're going to have to come back again and again.
Lovely. And I was actually thinking while we were talking about the mindfulness and setting of goals and intentions and gratitude that I have a workbook that I can share with the audience.
Yes, please.
They can take a look at.
Love it.
it's kind of something to where you can keep that next to your bed and you can jot down the notes. You don't have to do the sticky notes, and it could be very helpful because it's actually a guided self-care workbook. So we're working into February, the month of love, thinking of 2024 as being your big year. Of course, we don't need to think of just New Year's resolutions. There's also Chinese New Year's coming up.
That's right. So that's right.
Pick any day to get started, and my workbook might just help you.
Well, I am going to put that in the show notes, and definitely I want to encourage the listeners to download this gift. I think that it is so helpful to be able to have something guided that can get us started and kind of build the momentum. Thank you for that. You're so generous. I appreciate you. And my friend, I have one more thing to say. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Julie. It was amazing to connect again, and I look forward to more conversations.
Absolutely. Have a great day, Christiane.
Thanks for listening to Casa de Confidence. We thank you for listening, and if you want more, go to casadeconfidencepod.com. Check Julie out on her socials as Julie DeLucca-Collins. And you can also check out her website at goconfidentlycoaching.com. Have a great week, and don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Hi, everybody. I know that sometimes we get very lonely in this entrepreneur journey, and I want to invite you to join us into our limited time only Purposeful You Mastermind. For many of us entrepreneurs, we believe that we can do it all, but the reality is that doing it alone only creates a lot of overwhelm. So join us at the Purposeful You Mastermind. You can find out more information by going to bit.ly/Julie's Mastermind. This is going to be the place where you are able to then unlock your full potential and achieve long-term success for your business. Push you behind your current limits, expand your connections, discover new ideas, and implement them with confidence. You're going to get the support in all aspects and transforming you to the six-figure business you've been looking for. Pause and get off the hamster wheel if you've been spinning around. This is a time where you can get that support from like-minded entrepreneurs that are here to join you in your journey. Together, we can challenge the assumptions and land the speaking engagements and opportunities we want to grow our business and make an impact in the lives of people. See you then. Remember, you can find the mastermind at bit.ly, Julie's Mastermind.